So we all watch Crimson Tide, so I'm basically going to just go through and kind of think about each point that we read in the books and like how either like Gene Hackman or Denzel Washington like did it or didn't do it. First thing is the law of addition, and I feel like the captain did not show the law of addition at all. And the law of addition basically states that you want to add something to your followers. You know, you want to give them value so that, you know, they respect you and keep following you, because why would they follow you if there's nothing like really in it for them? And I feel like the captain, Gene Hackman, never once tried to listen, learn, and then lead. That was the main point that Maxwell noted. And Denzel definitely shows like he values his crew. He definitely listens to them, and I feel like he learned a lot. And then he like made decisions. For an example, the supervisor in the fight. Like usually, I feel like any military head or high rank would just yell at them and like punish them, but he actually pulled him aside like apart from everyone and asked him what was going on and what happened, and then he told him how to fix it and just to relax and then to keep doing what he was doing, and to learn from it that he was a supervisor and he couldn't be acting like that. The next point was the crew member that was fixing the radio when they were trying to get the emergency message back up. I feel like Gene Hackman, the captain, one of all, like related a story like Star Trek to him and empowered him to fix this because it was a big deal, but he probably just would have yelled at him and kept yelling at him. But Denzel actually like listened to him and truly valued what he was saying, and he really did empower him so that he would be able to fix it and not feel like the pressure was all on him, even though it really was. Let's see. I just feel like Denzel truly cared, and the true and then also one point was that he kind of like Denzel actually kind of added like morals to his friend that was like one of the high ups too, that actually ended up siding with Gene, the captain, during their like mutiny, but then he turned back because he realized what he was doing. He actually gave, when he called him on the phone, Denzel gave him the option to fire the nuclears, and he told him his opinion and how it was a bad decision, and but it was genuinely up to him, and that actually like added to his morals, and he ended up not doing it. He had to give them anyways because the captain was about to shoot one of the crew members, but he truly he didn't want to. And the next one, the law of solid ground, is basically all about trust, and I feel one of the quotes that really stood out to me, or like one of the main components, is like in order to lead, you really do have to be trustworthy, because why would people follow you if they don't trust you? And I feel like many trusted the captain based on how many years he had been in command. It's kind of just like a military thing. Like he had loyalty within people that have been with him forever, of fighting with him. And I know like when you fight with someone, it definitely, draws you closer and you have that bond. And I feel like at first it was kind of difficult for Denzel to receive trust until he gained credibility with the crew, because he was new coming on. And not a lot of people had really worked with him except for his one friend, and his one friend did trust him. So I was really surprised when his friend turned on him in the beginning with like the mutiny and taking the captain's side. And I feel like that's pretty much the entire movie was just about like two competing characters. Like you have the military leadership rank style, if you want to call that really a leadership style, and then you have kind of like a true leadership style, which Denzel showed to me. So like throughout the entire story, like you can just see the difference, and it really does show that rank doesn't mean you are a leader, because he was the captain of the submarine and he really showed no leadership style whatsoever, and the leadership styles that I've learned in my leadership minor. And then the next one kind of goes into what I just talked about, like the military style. So like the less skilled followed the more highly skilled, obviously, and that's definitely apparent in the military. You have to follow orders, so obviously if you're a higher rank, you're going to have followers because it's part of your job, like it's required. And it was easy to see the respect for the captain just because of that factor that he was the captain. Pretty plain and simple. And then military terms versus true leadership, like I kind of talked about. Like I said, true leadership doesn't come with rank, and you can definitely see this throughout the movie. The captain was just like, it was his way or the highway. Like, he didn't want to listen to anyone, didn't want to take in feedback or collaborate. It was what he said, and that was it. And the Denzel definitely respected his people and listened, and because of that, he became truly respected in the end. Not just by that, he was right in like the missile crisis, but you can just see the differences. And even at the end of the movie, the captain even like saw respect for him when he gave him over like his submarine and realized he was wrong, and that his actions like caused a lot more grief that shouldn't have been there. So he was able, like, and also with the different mutinies, like Denzel was able to have an army based on, the crew members, and he was only there for a short time. And the only army that the captain really had were the people who had been there with him for a while, like with loyalty. So you can see the difference, like between military and the length of time you're with someone, based on true leadership and how you can gain followers that quickly if it's true, if you truly respect people. And then the law of intuition. This one was kind of difficult for me to understand because intuition is difficult to understand in general. You just kind of know what it means. But he talked about like different biases and how you see through you have like your intuition based on like a leadership bias or how you were raised or your strengths. And I feel like the captain's bias was just combat. Like even when he was going over Denzel's files, like Denzel had all of this well educated and history, and the captain, the main thing he pointed out was that he never had any combat. And yes, that can make a difference, but in terms of like true leadership style, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have combat. It's like about what you learn, especially with like these changing ways of war, and like because the movie kind of showed that back in the day they didn't have like the nuclear missiles, so it was easy to just go ahead and be in a war. But now with the nuclear missiles, you had to really think and analyze all the aspects of the fight you were starting. And I saw true leadership intuition when he gave up his command at the end. I feel like he was humble, and he realized that the ways were changing, and Denzel was the better leader because of how he handled the situation. Denzel, like I said, was very well educated, and he analyzed all of the options. And another thing too is that he noticed the crew morale, and he confronted the captain about it, and the captain pretty much just laughed in his face and said this was the military, so it didn't matter, and he kind of just yelled at him. But Denzel really wanted the captain to just give them like a pat on the back, because it was a stressful situation. I mean, they're using nuclear warfare, and that's kind of insane. But just like in general, like Denzel definitely had better intuition with his people, because you could just tell he could read people, he understood them, he listened to them, and he just took in, like, he truly had that leadership intuition. It's really hard to explain, but if you like watch him throughout the movie, you just know he has that intuition. And then for the emotionally intelligent leadership with Shankman, the Shankman book, basically what we all read was about consciousness of self, and the four main parts were identifying your emotions and reactions and their impacts, being aware of your own strengths and limitations, a balanced sense of self, and moderating your emotions and reactions. And I feel like this movie was full of emotions. Neither demonstrated true moderation of emotions in their reactions, and you can definitely tell that by their huge fight in the middle of the control room. Now that, I think this kind of applies differently, like, in that situation, it was a stressful situation, so I can see how their emotions may have gone out of hand, but from a leadership standpoint, like if something like that happened in a group, then you would want to pull that person aside and, not let your emotions get the best of you, maybe calm down for a little bit and then go and, try to talk to the person. But you see it was very hard for Denzel to do this because the captain would not listen to him whatsoever. Let's see. Yeah, the captain's strength, was combat and military. So, like, and I think he knew that, but in a leadership standpoint, it's not the best. It's really hard to compare like leadership and military because they seem like they go hand in hand, but from what I've learned, they really don't. It's basically just based on rank, and you have to do what you're told to do. And Denzel was well educated, so he saw all the possible outcomes. So I think he was aware of his own strengths. And then his limitation might have been combat, but because of his strengths, they kind of like made up for it, and he knew what he was doing, and he proved himself at the end. I feel like the captain just didn't realize his limitations with the new war strategy, so he just wasn't, aware of how to handle it really until the very end. And he never realized like the impact, the nuclear wars would have. He just wanted to blow stuff up. So I think both of them could have worked on their consciousness of self, but definitely Denzel did it a lot better.